Live! Hello, everybody. My name is Gabe Howard, and I am literally here with the great Lisa Kiner. For those that listen week after week or watch week after week, you know that Lisa and I can never seem to get our high fives straight. Now we did it. Look at that. We solved the problem with ingenuity and, not being in our own houses. Here's what's going to happen over the next hour. Here's all you need to know and all you need to do. Ask all of your questions pertaining to mental health, mental illness. You can pick advocacy, depression, bipolar disorder, anxiety, anything that you want. Type the questions in the comment section, and Lisa and I are going to answer as many as we can. That's really the gimmick. It's not
it's not really a gimmick.
It's not complicated, right? Shorter questions get answered easier because we can pop them on the magical screen like we've talked about our podcast here. While you're typing in all of your questions, Lisa and I will introduce ourselves.
Okay.
Since I, of course, haven't shut up for the last 2 minutes, I'm going to let Lisa go first. Lisa, tell the people who you are.
Hi, I didn't know that was a choice. Hi, I'm Lisa, and I am the co-host with Gabe here of the Not Crazy podcast. And we both live with mental illness, and that is super distracting. I am so not going to be able to function if you do that. See, now I've completely lost my train of thought. This was your fault. So we both live with mental illness, here today to answer your questions about living with mental illness. And what else? What else are we here for?
I don't know. Hello, my name is Gabe Howard, and I live with bipolar disorder, and I am the host of the Not Crazy podcast with my ex-wife, Lisa.
I always forget to add that part. I know. See, it isn't a thing for me, because I don't think of it as being part of our current lives,
I don't think of you as my ex-wife.
I don't either.
Yeah, I think of you as my current frenemy. So we run the Not Crazy podcast. It is a very, very cool podcast, things like lived experience. And we love hosting it because we feel that people who live with mental illness need a platform to discuss the things that are important to us. There's tons of, it's amazing. I mean, since I got started in advocacy,
there's a lot more than there used
to be. There's tons of platforms for personal stories. And of course, now that in the rise of social media, Facebook, YouTube, even blogging, people can tell their own stories in a way that they just never could before.
It's an exciting time.
Yeah, but then we noticed that the people living with mental illness really didn't get to debate anything. They didn't get to discuss anything. They didn't get to challenge anything. And they didn't get to explain to the world how they see things through the lens of living with mental illness. And we thought, well, that seems like a good idea. And somebody along the way said, I don't know, that seems kind of like a crazy idea. And I said, that's not crazy. And that's how it was. Look at that.
Wow.
And that's how Not Crazy was born. We sincerely hope that you would check out the Not Crazy podcast over at psychcentral.com/notcrazy or your favorite podcast player. All right. So as the questions are starting to pile in, remember, we're going to tell everybody one more time how it works. Lisa, explain the system.
Okay. The system is not that complicated. You're going to write your questions in the chat, and we will answer as many as we can.
Comments.
Sorry. I'm sorry, because I said, write your questions in the comments. This is why he's in charge of saying these things. You're going to write your questions in the comments, and we will answer as many as we can. And once again, shorter questions are more likely to get answered. So it looks like we have a few. All
right. Are you ready to get started? Hey, before we get started, we want to give a huge shout out to Camera. She is we're going to call her producer, director.
All things.
She is, without her, we're basically nothing. I mean, we're just a couple of literal talking heads. So big round of applause for Camera. They just bang them on. Big round of applause for Camera. Big round of applause for the mighty. Big round of applause for Psych Central. And please check out the Not Crazy podcast, or, we'll just be talking to ourselves. All right.
Which would be crazy. See what I did there?
Ready to get started?
Ooh, now we're doing fist bumps. See, that's an advanced move since we've now conquered high fives.
I know. All right, here we go.
Okay. All right, and our first question is, what is your view on medication versus just therapy or DBT?
So I don't particularly have a view, right? Whatever works for you. There's multiple paths for recovery, or I'm sorry, there's multiple paths to recovery. But I do want to give just maybe a little shout out. I sort of don't like the idea that we're even comparing the two. It's kind of like saying, hey, what's your view on a cast versus what's the opposite of a cast?
I don't, a splint,
A
surgery.
splint or surgery. Yeah, there you go. There's a good example. It's kind of like asking, what's your preference between a cast, a splint, or surgery? My answer would be, depending on your broken leg, you should use whichever one works best for you. I don't have a preference. It's not my broken leg. I think a lot of times, though, in the mental health community, we tend to stigmatize one or the other. We say things like, well, I don't need medication. I'm utilizing therapy, as if it's meaningful or it means that you've overcome something or you're doing better than somebody else. And
I have a real illness, which is why I take medication. I don't need to do all this talking crap.
yeah, it goes the other way as well, but in reality, for me personally, I'm going to let Lisa speak in a minute because it's the same for her. For me personally, I need multiple things. I need medication, I need one-on-one therapy, and I need support groups. I look at them all as equals. I could give you my house analogy, but it's pretty basic. If anything in your house goes away, you're going to be upset. Nobody's going to be happy if their electric gets turned off. They're not going to be like, well, I still have plumbing and a roof. No, whatever you're missing, you're going to be upset with. Have everything. Why can't we have it all? We need to get to recovery in whatever way is possible. No path is better than any other path as long as you get there. Lisa, say some words.
I would say that the reason why they have this differentiation is because, of course, you're probably going to go to different providers for the two things. You're probably not going to get your drugs from the same place that you get your therapy or your DPT. And so that, I think that's what causes a lot of the separation of the two, that you actually have to, and sometimes you might even have to go to whole different practices. You might not even go to the same building. So I think that's what causes the differentiation, but there's no reason why you can't combine these things.
Yeah, I really wish that it was everything in the same building, right? I mean, just why are we separating them out? If your psychiatry, psychology, therapy, groups, et cetera, could all be housed under one roof, I think that people would get better care.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider, some folks need help with career.
Occupational therapy.
Occupational therapy and help getting back a career, help getting back into the workforce, and on and on and on and on and on. I think it's very, very valuable to consider that all are good. All right, ready for the next question?
Yes. Ready for the next question. All right. And Trisha Heath says, I get extreme anxiety every night around the same time. Not sure why. Any ideas why this would happen at the ends of, probably when to go the ends of the day?
I made the text bigger for you.
Oh, see, that's why I was squinting. I couldn't see that far.
You poor thing.
Bifocals only do so much.
So I have, as somebody who lives with an anxiety disorder, I have a couple of theories on this. And the first one is it's not necessarily the end of the day. It's what happens at the end of the day. The end of the day is when things get quiet. It's when we lay down. It's when we turn off the lights. It's essentially when the noise of the world kind of shuts off around us.
And you're left with your own thoughts.
Yeah, we're just alone with our thoughts. And for me personally, and that's all I can speak to with any authority, for me personally, being alone with my thoughts can be a very scary place. I start to replay conversations and wondered if I handled them well. I start to replay lives on The Mighty and Psych Central and wondered if they went okay. And then I really start judging myself, right? I start thinking, oh man, maybe Lisa and I shouldn't have done it. I have a second computer. I could have set her up in my kitchen. Why are we on the same screen? Well, what's happening? Or just, I'm going to get fired. My wife's going to leave me. And there's nothing to challenge that. During the day, this thought will pop into my head, but then I have to drive, right? Or I turn on the TV, or Lisa will ask me a question, or I'll have to work, or I'll play with my dog. All of these things serve as mental distractions. I really believe that is the crux of what's happening. Lisa, thoughts?
I don't myself struggle that much with anxiety, but I know you've spoken many times about how you have a lot of anxiety over whether or not you're going to be able to sleep. Thank you, Vince. You have a lot of anxiety over whether or not you're going to be able to sleep. And so maybe the end of the day is coming, you're going to have to lay down, and you know that if you do not sleep well, that the next day you're going this whole cycle. So you've always expressed to me that the thought of sleeping, strangely, gives you anxiety because you're afraid that you won't be able to.
Yeah, very true. Also, a lot happens during the day. There's a lot to reflect upon. Reflection is good, but it can also be scary. All right, remember, here's what we're doing for the next hour. We want to hear from you. Ask short questions in the comments, and Lisa and I will answer as many as we can. We are the hosts of the Not Crazy podcast, and I think we're cool people, and we've been practicing our high fives.
Ooh, high five.
We almost
we
ruined
got
it.
it wrong that time. Let's do it again. Okay, see, I have to focus. I feel like that's where I'm.
We almost did it like wrong. Like, hey, high five.
Like, whoa.
Yeah, just okay. Yeah. All right, next question.
We're not actually getting better.
No.
All right, Christina Marie asks, what's the easiest way to transfer therapists?
You have come to the right place to ask this question. Lisa taught me about patient advocacy. She taught me about
being a healthcare consumer.
She taught me about being a healthcare consumer. She has so much to say about this that I could really just go away for the next 5 minutes. Lisa, the show is yours.
Well, I guess the answer is going to be, why do you want to transfer therapists? Are you not getting what you're looking for out of your current therapist? Are you having some sort of problem? Or is it just your insurance changing? Or maybe your therapist has told you that they think you would be better off with a different provider, a different type of provider, something like that. So I guess the easiest way to transfer therapists is to get, what do you, see, now he's creeping me out because he's smiling at me weird.
I just looked at you.
Anyway, so.
I just looked at you.
I lose my train of thought easily, and I was saying really, really profound stuff. Thank you. Look that way. Good. All right. Problem solved. Anywho, so you're trying to transfer therapists. Where do you want to go? Who can you get recommendations from? Do you have another healthcare professional that you could ask, or perhaps your current therapist could recommend someone to you, depending on why the reason is that you're leaving. And again, we've actually had a thing on this on the podcast about interview your therapist. You're about to, one, spend a lot of money and a lot of time, but also it's a very personal, very, very specific relationship. So yeah, interview them, call them up, ask questions.
How do you transfer?
How do you transfer?
Yeah, the question is, how do you transfer therapists, not how do you choose one?
Well, but if you're transferring therapists, you're going to a new one.
That's true.
I would say, well, if the idea is just, if we're truly answering only the transfer aspect of it, you tell your current therapist that you want a copy of all of your records, which belong to you. Legally, they cannot deny you copies of your records. They do. Your healthcare records are yours. So, and then you take them to the new person, or you could just give them your medical history when you get there.
I know this is my fault because I looked at you, so I'm going to give the answer that Lisa normally gives when people ask this. So the first thing is you don't owe your therapist anything.
Is that what we're asking?
Be a healthcare consumer. You don't have to give a reason.
They work for you.
Yeah, they work for you. You don't have to give a reason. And in fact, you don't even have to tell them that you're leaving. It's one of the few relationships where ghosting is perfectly acceptable. The easiest way to transfer therapists is to pick a new one with all of the ideas that Lisa just gave and ask that therapist to request your records from the last one.
That'll be easy too.
If you do want to have, a last appointment or closure, that's perfectly acceptable. And in fact, it really is healthy. It is psychologically healthy to explain to your therapist why you are leaving, because your therapist might be able to get you a recommendation. So
who would be a better choice?
Yeah, who might be a better choice. But obviously, it all depends on the reason that you're leaving. You had said that you are moving to a different state. What I would do is wait until you got to the different state, pick a new therapist based on the criteria and methods that Lisa laid out, and then have that practice contact your previous practice and request your records. You can also, again, if you know you're moving, you can tell your therapist that you are moving and that you would like your records, and you can take them and give them to the next person. They do have to give you your records. It's all up to you whether or not you want to see them, and there's so much writing on whether or not that's a good idea, whether it's mentally healthy, whether it's psychologically healthy, and everybody's going to land in a different place. For me personally, I don't want to see my records. I'd rather they transfer practice to practice. I believe that there's shorthand in there that by doctors that I would just obsess over and that it would hurt my therapy. Lisa, on the other hand, she wants everything.
It's mine.
And yeah, neither one of us are wrong.
Well, and also in terms of transferring therapists, as you said, it's perfectly acceptable to ghost your current therapist. Remember, they work for you, and they're not going to be upset about this. Obviously, they lose patients all the time for a variety of reasons. So they are not going to be worried about this, and they'll be quite used to it.
Absolutely. All right. You ready for the next question?
Next question.
All right.
Okay. I had to report someone for sexual harassment at work. They switched my shift, but I'm still so anxious about returning. Any advice?
Lisa, do you have
Well,
thoughts on this?
well, I think the real question is it isn't so much what it is that you're anxious about something. And so the question is how to deal with anxiety. So I don't know that how you deal with anxiety really matters so much about what the reason behind the anxiety is.
Well, I'm gonna give a little bit of twist on that. I
Okay.
kind of disagree. I think when you have a specific thing, that
Okay.
makes anxiety. This is a very bad choice of words. Remember, we're just talking this out between
Okay.
us. But if I have anxiety about a snake that is in my room,
Mhm.
that is different than if I just have free floating anxiety. And the reason that I say that is because I'm anxious about the snake. That serves a biological need. It protects me from getting bit by the snake or accidentally harming the snake, or it lets me get help for the snake situation. And of course, once the snake is removed and safely out of my room, I'm safe, the snake is safe, I can begin to de-escalate. It sounds like for you, you're worried about day one after everything that happens. This is very reasonable.
Yeah, it's extremely reasonable.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you have that, you have the snake, right?
It's living in your house.
Yeah, it's not living in your house, but
Well,
you know
the
what the
snake
snake is, and you know what to do about the
magical
snake.
part.
And I think that has a lot of value because now you can start to do stuff about it. For example, in my analogy, if there really was a snake in my room, I would call somebody who understood snakes and ask them to get the snake out of my room, and etc. I think that you might need to have another conversation with human resources and talk about the game plan
Going
for
forward.
ensuring your safety. Because it sounds like you're worried that there isn't a game plan. You're worried that you'll see this person in the hall, or that maybe it wasn't handled correctly, or there'll be retribution. And I think that it is a smart idea to alleviate your own anxiety, to make sure that you understand the plan moving forward and look for benchmarks to see. And most importantly, ask what happens if it doesn't go well.
Mm-hmm.
For example, in my snake analogy, I might say to the
Contingency
person,
plans.
yeah, I might say, what if you can't catch the snake? What if the snake goes into an open vent? And they may say, oh, well, that's okay. We have snake traps, or whatever. And I'd be like, okay, well, I feel better about that. And then I would let them into my house, and I would sit and wait. It's a tough thing, though.
Yeah, it is.
It's also important, and I want to speak to this as well. You went through a traumatic experience. Let's not conflate anxiety and trauma. I do believe that you should seek therapy, and frankly, work should pay for it because it happened there. You should seek therapy about your trauma. You thought that work was a safe place, and it ended up not being a safe place in this way. And I think it's important to address that, because again, any trauma that you go through, if left unchecked, can turn into major panic, major anxiety, and major mental health problems. So don't negate that. Lisa, you have anything to add?
I guess the only thing I would add is anytime that I'm specific about a very specific, I'm sorry, anytime I'm anxious about a very specific thing, the anticipation is so much worse. So once you get there and you get over that initial hump, it'll be much, much better. At least it would be for me. So you probably are only going to struggle for the first, let's say, hour that you're there. And after that, it's going to be much, much better.
Yeah.
So it's not like you have to dread, oh my God, it's a whole day. How will I make it? So
when I had anxiety about returning to work after being off, et cetera, the first hour was by far the worst. The second hour got a little bit better. And usually by the end of the first week, it was just back to business as usual. First days at any job are hard. Kind of use that.
First of anything is hard.
Yeah. Kind of use that as an analogy moving forward. Lisa, you ready for the next question?
Absolutely.
Oh, hey, they talked about the Not Crazy podcast.
What do we? Which you can find at psychcentral.com/notcrazy.
Did you know that was our show?
I was aware that was our show.
Look, we have a sticker.
How would the fine viewers get one of those stickers for themselves, Gabe?
I mean, they'd have to come see our podcast live, and then we send them out for free. But we can't travel during a quarantine, so all of our speeches and live podcasts are done on Facebook Live.
You got to hold the sticker. I want to hold this.
You can hold the sticker. Look, it's up on the screen.
Look, special effects.
You ready for the next question?
I'm old. What can I say? Yes, next question. Oh, my daughter took her life and my friend's daughter did too. We are very close. Last night, my friend, she also took her life. How do I help her other daughter survive? Oh God, that's horrible.
First, my huge condolences.
I'm sorry. So sorry.
That is a lot. This is
It's a lot.
it's
It's
a
a lot
lot.
to deal with.
It's a lot.
A
Counseling,
lot of loss.
therapy is going to be very important for all of her friends and family, especially her daughter, and also for you. This is one of those moments that therapy is made for, reaching out into the world, going to support groups, finding peer support groups, finding loss groups, survivors of suicide groups. Google in your area loss groups, suicide survivor groups. It's a little counterintuitive. Suicide survivor often means the friends and
those
family
left behind.
Yeah, those left behind. Keep your head up. Unfortunately, mental illness is a mean illness, and people die from mental illness by suicide. We call it suicide rather than death by mental illness. And there's a lot to unpack. Be there for your friend. Be positive for your friend. Be helpful for your friend. Don't give advice. Let her cry. Let her vent. Let her scream that the world is unfair. The best thing that you can do is be supportive. And get her the help that she no doubt needs, which is therapy and a support group. And I strongly encourage you to do the same thing, because again, if you're caring for somebody that's been through a traumatic experience that you've also been through, you should get help for that same traumatic experience. Again, our huge condolences.
That's a lot.
All right, Lisa, you ready to move on to the next question?
Yes, ready for the next question.
All right.
All right. Emmanuel Vargas asks, is rage common in bipolar people? Why, Gabe, I think you have something to say about this.
So this is where we're going to get into a little trouble with the definition of common, right?
Fair point.
I think that everybody, just not every person with bipolar disorder, just everybody, I think everybody experiences rage. Every single person. At some point in your life, you will experience rage. Don't care who you are. I think it happens to everybody. So now the question becomes, how much rage do you have to have before it's a symptom of bipolar disorder? Are we blaming all of our moods on bipolar disorder? And finally, anger, which becomes rage, does serve a purpose. So that rage may be really justified and actually a good thing, believe it or not. Social movements start with anger. They move to rage, and then they move to progress. This is how we move forward. All of that said, it's kind of a disingenuous answer to your question. I just want to make people aware that just because somebody lives with bipolar disorder doesn't mean that all of their emotions are now wrapped up in that. That said, bipolar rage is a known thing. And one of the hallmarks of it is it's constant and it's quick. 0 to 60. Everything is fine, you're screaming. Everything is fine, you're telling people you love, you hate them. Everything is fine, you're throwing things against the wall. And there's a huge uncontrolled aspect of it, and it comes on very, very quickly. As far as whether or not it's common, I don't know if it's, I think that it is common. I think that a lot of people with bipolar disorder have this, but as to what that percentage is it 5%? Is it 10%? It's important to understand that not every single person with bipolar disorder experiences rage on the regular. It's very, very important to understand that. But if you've had uncontrolled anger, uncontrolled rage, if you're punching walls, throwing things, screaming at people, trashing your car because it looked at you funny, these are all very clear indicators that there may be something going on. It could relate to bipolar disorder, and you should document everything and talk to a trained mental health professional to decide if this is a symptom of your bipolar disorder. I know you have some thoughts on this.
Bipolar disorder, of course, is all about extremes of mood and instability of mood. And that can easily lead to anger getting out of control. So I would not know if it's common, but I've known many people with bipolar disorder who do experience it. So
myself included.
Yeah, you included.
I experienced rage. we documented it. We went to my therapist, and my therapist was like, okay, you're screaming and yelling at people for no reason. Why are you angry? And it really came down to, I don't know. And that, of course, it was a pivotal moment. It was just, why are you that upset for something that you don't remember 2 days later?
Right.
And that's what let me know that it was definitely a symptom of bipolar disorder for
more than just
sure.
a regular emotion, as it were.
Yeah. Wonderful. All right. Are we ready for the next question, Lisa?
Yes, definitely. Love. Next question. Okay. I've been taking medication for about 6 to 7 years and it works well. Oh, good. During the dozing off and waking period of sleep, I have negative thoughts that torment. This was before taking the medication. I wonder if I'm alone in this.
Lisa, do you want to, you've had,
I have a sleep disorder.
Yeah, you have narcolepsy.
I do.
You know an awful lot about sleep, and arguably, as I am a mental health advocate, you are basically a sleep advocate. As much as you believe in
your sleep disorder change. It just changes your whole world. It's amazing.
What are your thoughts on this question? And I know that it's partially a sleep question, it's partially a medication side effect question, and you understand both very well.
I would say that well. This person is saying this happened before taking the medication. So you're not thinking that it's a medication side effect. This is just something that is already occurring. I would say that obviously anything that is disturbing you enough, you can ask your doctor about and see if there's a solution for you there. The time for me personally, it's that finite period between waking and sleeping where there's the switch over and you're not quite all the way one way, you're not quite all the way the other, is a very strange time. I for years, I thought all this stuff was happening. It wasn't really happening. It's just on and on and on with sleep disorders. So you're certainly not alone in this. And if you read anything about sleep disorders or narcolepsy or sleep paralysis or on and on and on, that specific period between wakefulness and sleep is by far the one that people have the most trouble with.
It's definitely worth talking to your prescriber who prescribed your psychiatric medication, but also you didn't indicate an age. I know that the older I have gotten, I am now in my 40s, there are certain things that were never a problem before that started to become a problem. It wasn't as a result of bipolar disorder. It was just part of the natural aging process. Now, again, you haven't indicated your age in any way. I just want to throw that out there. It's certainly possible that your sleep habits and sleep quality are changing, not because of anything that you've done wrong, but just because the body is different. And talking to a general practitioner and perhaps getting a sleep study, maybe you need a CPAP machine, maybe you have sleep apnea, maybe you have
sleep paralysis.
Maybe you have sleep paralysis. Just so many things can impact sleep that we are unaware of, and we are not qualified to speak on them, but we have been surprised the number of people who have trouble sleeping that have gotten a sleep study, and it's been so simple.
Sleep disorders are much more common than you realize. It's weird because doctors will always ask you about your diet and your exercise, but they never ask you about sleep, right? They almost never ask you, how long are you sleeping? How well are you sleeping? And yeah, sleep disorders are just much more common than you thought. And there's a lot of treatment available these days.
Very true. All right. Ready for the next question? Mm-hmm. All right. I'm going to do like the magic thing like I've done.
He loves the magic thing.
You ready? Mm-hmm. You ready?
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah. Yeah, you're going to knock the microphone.
I feel like I did good. I feel like I did good.
You did not do badly.
All right.
All right. CBD oil for depression and anxiety. What are your views on it?
So my general views are there's not really any science yet. Yeah. My secondary view is that CBD oil is one of these things that, depending on where you buy it, your results may vary. CBD oil is sold at a gas station for $10, and it's also sold at very high-end pharmacies and natural stores for $100. There's gotta be a difference between the two. And when people are saying, well, how does it work with anxiety? Well, it really strongly depends on which version are you getting? Are you getting an oil based with just a little teeny tiny little bit of cannabis oil? Or are you getting a really quality,
just like
quality oil? Yeah.
I would say this is the same as anyone would ask about supplements, right? How do various supplements work for various illnesses? We don't really know because they're not regulated. No one is keeping track. You don't know what's in the bottle. You don't even know if one bottle of this is the same as another bottle of this. So you don't know what's in the bottle. You don't know if there even is CBD oil in there, much less what quality it is. So I don't know that you can really give an answer on how well it works because you don't even know if you're actually taking it.
All of that said, there are studies and when scientists,
we're getting some studies.
Yeah, and when scientists do studies, they make sure that it's this everything. The capsules are exactly the same from beginning to end. They have the control groups and on and on and on. And there have been some studies out there that are doing okay in peer review. Again, very, very new, that shows that it could possibly have some effect on anxiety. Not so much on bipolar, not so much on depression, but there does seem to be some science mounting that the right dosage at the right time in the right quantities, etc., could potentially help with anxiety. And I think that's very exciting.
It's a very interesting area of research. Yeah. I'm interested to see where it goes.
And the research is absolutely ongoing. I just want to stress, right now, if you have an anxiety disorder and you go to the gas station and you buy a bottle of CBD pills for $10, I don't think that's what the scientists are using to test. And it's scary for me because I know that people are desperate to get help. And because of the no regulation, yeah. I don't know that they're getting high quality CBD oil. Again, please, I am not attacking CBD oil. The science is ongoing, but there just has to be a difference between $10 gas station CBD oil and $100 pharmacy grade CBD oil. Something has to explain that price. All right. Are we ready for the next question?
Yes, definitely. Let's have the next question.
You want to do the magic? You want to do it's already there.
No, already done.
Yeah, you missed
the magic just happened off
no
screen.
Magic.
All right. Go ahead. I know you want to. Go ahead. Yeah.
All right.
All right. So Amanda asks, how can ACEs impact your diagnosis? Do you think every therapist should be trained in ACEs and trauma-informed care? Ooh, adverse childhood experiences. It took me a minute. I was trying to think of what those ACE inhibitors are. Medication.
Thank you, Lisa. Yes, I do think that. Well, yes,
absolutely.
I think that every therapist should be trained in trauma-informed care and ACEs. I really, really, really do. Our childhood makes our
adulthood.
Yeah, and people will argue with me on this. They'll be like,
people argue with you on that?
Of course they do. People argue about anything. It's the internet. And they'll say, the things that happen to you in childhood, do you honestly believe that it can really impact your adulthood in this manner? And I say to people, what's your favorite comfort food? And their eyes light up and they're like, oh, meatloaf and mashed potatoes. And I'm like, why? Oh, my mom makes the best. Interesting. Something from your childhood that's carried over to 40-year-old you. We all have things like that. There's certain songs that I hear that remind me of my high school girlfriend. There's movies I watch that remind me of staying up all night with my friends. Lisa and I still to this day can't listen to our wedding song without vomiting because it didn't work out and it just ruined the Macarena for us.
Macarena, really?
I decided that was our wedding song. It was a bad song and it was a bad marriage. Moving along.
It was not a bad song.
Being divorced is fun. So yes, I think the things that happen to us. Yeah, I think the things that happen to us in childhood absolutely influence us as adults, and I think that therapists should be aware of this because there's nothing worse than getting a problem resolved and then tripping over trauma and tripping over something that we did not deal with from our past. And I really do strongly believe that. So the answer to your question is yes, unequivocally, yes, I think they should be trained in this 100%.
Yeah, perfect answer.
All right, ready for the next question, Lisa?
Next question.
Here we go.
And thank you, Camera, for letting him do the magic.
I love the magic.
I know. Any advice for someone with BPD and CPTSD that recently went through severe trauma to the point that I can't trust my own judgment?
Lisa, do you have any thoughts? You can say no.
That's a very tough decision. Tough question. I guess I would say, who in your life do you have whose judgment you can trust? Is there someone that if you're having to make some decisions, you're not sure what path to go down, is there someone that you can trust? Maybe a friend, a family member, a therapist, a doctor. Who can you turn to whose judgment you do trust at this time?
Everything that Lisa said, 100%. In addition to that, when you find that person, train them. I'm
Good
very
point.
fond of saying that the worst time to have a fire drill is when the house is on fire. But for some reason in mental health and in mental illness, we always wait until something's going wrong. And then we start saying, help me, is that real? What do you see? Can you do? And the person is confused. They don't know what you're asking. They might not be ready. They don't know how to respond.
They're too worried to respond in a way that's helpful.
They're worried about you because not only do they not know what to do, they don't know what you want because you've never talked about it. Sincerely, if there is anybody in your life, friend, spouse, mother, father, sister, brother, aunt, just your barista, the guy that sells you McChickens at McDonald's, whomever, somebody that you have a relationship with that you can trust, that you see on the regular, that you can sit down and say, when you are doing well, here is what happens. Some days I'm doing well. Some days I do poorly. I can't trust my own judgment. I'm really afraid because I still need to make decisions because I'm a grown-up person that has to make decisions. And I really, really, really need your help. And here's what I would like from you. And then remember, whatever agreements you make, you got to hold to it.
Yeah.
It's don't get in a fight with the person that you asked for help. So often I talk to my friends whom I love and they get mad at me and I'm like, why the hell did you ask? I was just sitting here minding my own business and you started asking me questions. So it's very important that when you make this deal, because you're making an agreement with people, that you hold up your end as well. And if you find them being very, very helpful, thank them. Make them dinner, buy them a little present, just, take them to dinner, buy them a latte or a cup of coffee, acknowledge their help. These small little things make a really, really big difference. And then finally, therapy. Therapy is how you will get your confidence back. I said finally therapy, but actually there's one more finally. Reward yourself. Reward yourself when you do the pro and con list, when you go to therapy, when you talk to your friend and you make the decision, when you do the right thing and you own that decision for better, for worse, and you move forward, pat yourself on the back. And don't spend any time acknowledging your failures except to learn from them. Failing is not proof that you are bad at anything.
You're practicing.
Yeah. I'm a huge hockey fan. The Stanley Cup champions will lose 25% of their games every year to literally be the best in the world. But it's because they didn't focus on 25% of their failures except to see what they could learn from them. Mm-hmm. They didn't see it as proof they were bad. They saw it as proof they could improve. And then they celebrated their success with revelry. Revelry.
That doesn't sound right. I think we might be pronouncing
Usually
that incorrectly.
People say drunken revelry.
I still think you're saying it wrong.
You think it's a rivalry?
No,
I think it's revelry.
That's something. I don't know.
All right.
We're going to look that up later. I will write it on my list.
Yeah.
You did write a book. Do you have that book somewhere?
It just seems lame.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to the next question. All right. I think camera's ready. And next question. Hey.
I have had trauma most of my life. Is it possible to one day not have any triggers? I have had a lot of therapy and trauma therapy.
Yes, it is certainly
Absolutely.
Possible.
You can certainly move beyond.
Yes, but as you pointed out, it is a tough road. It is an uphill battle, and it takes a long time. And I think it's important to understand that. So many people, they're like, well, I've been at this for 5 years. Why am I not better? And the answer is because you're not yet. That's it. It's not a value judgment. It's not that you've done anything wrong. It's not that anybody's done anything wrong. The reason that you're not better yet is because you're still working on it. No problem. Continue forward. It is certainly possible. Keep working. Keep going to therapy. Keep finding the right therapist for your type of trauma, moving past it. Reward yourself for your success and have realistic expectations of what it means to live trauma-free.
Yeah.
All of us, remembering bad things that happened to us is not the same as still living with trauma. Now, again, that's a personal relationship between you and your past. But there have certainly been traumatic things that have happened in my past that I absolutely remember, but they are no longer causing me trauma. Some people would say, well, but if you remember them, isn't it traumatic to remember them? Well, sure. I don't get excited when I remember them, but they aren't rearing their ugly head in the middle of Thanksgiving dinner anymore. So it's also reasonable to have, or it's also important to have reasonable expectations, and maybe talk to a therapist or a trauma group about what those reasonable expectations are. Everybody has something. And I don't mean everybody with trauma or everybody with mental illness. I mean everybody. Everybody has seen something they wish they can forget. They regret something. Everybody carries just a little bit of an internal, hey, I wish that hadn't have happened to me. Remembering that is it's part of the human experience. It's not proof that you're not healed. Understanding that for yourself is also part of the recovery journey. Lisa?
Well, I would just like to say that it's not all or none. It's not, oh, I'm going to be just as bad as I am right now, or someday I will be completely trigger free. There's all sorts of shades of gray in the middle. And just because many people do make it, well, I shouldn't say it that way. Many people do become, yes, but even if you don't, that doesn't mean you can't be better than you are now. Even if you continue to have those triggers for the rest of your life, that doesn't mean they're always going to affect you the same way and it's always going to be this bad. So just because you don't get to 100 doesn't mean you can't have drastic improvement.
Everything that Lisa said was awesome. All right.
He's so complimentary now that we're divorced.
Yeah.
Where is that?
I mean, I have long breaks from you. So that helps a lot. We are the hosts of the Not Crazy podcast at psychcentral.com/notcrazy or your favorite podcast players. Yes, we used to be married. It did not work out. Nobody knows why.
That's not accurate. Many people, I know why.
Yeah, I know why too.
It is not. No, not a mystery.
All right. Ready for the next question?
Yes. I'm
All
ready
right.
for the next
Here
question.
we go. And boop.
All right. I have been seeing a psychologist. All he does is medication management and talk a few minutes. Possible to find one who do therapy and manage the RX I take?
It is possible, highly unlikely. And if you do, they're going to be extraordinarily expensive. I could talk for hours on the reality of the mental health system, even for people with money and insurance, but it's bleak and I want to stay positive. In general, in America, psychiatrists manage your medication and therapists do talk therapy. One of the best that is common is if your therapist and psychiatrist work in the same office.
Or at least have a relationship with each other and are willing to communicate about your care.
Yeah, but it is possible. There are Fraser Cranes in the world who absolutely do talk therapy and med management. They are very rare. They usually don't take insurance, and they cost hundreds upon hundreds of dollars per hour. They do exist, but it's extraordinarily uncommon.
I personally don't. I don't know that I personally feel like that would be all that valuable to me. I mean, because I feel like, my psychiatrist is an expert in medication and my therapist is an expert in therapy. And these are two completely different skills. So I'm actually not disturbed by having two separate people handle these things, because I feel like it's kind of the same way that you would have, I don't know, what are some examples? Like I have a gynecologist and a dermatologist, because they both have this narrow range of knowledge, of this extremely deep knowledge of a very specific subject. And I don't know that it's reasonable to think that someone would have this deep knowledge of two things. So now, again, you want them to communicate with each other. And even if they're not in the same practice.
Coordination of care.
Coordination of care. Yeah. Even if they're not in the same practice, you could speak to them about that and see if you can get that to be happening.
All right, Lisa, you ready for the next question?
Mm-hmm.
All right, and here we go. Hey!
All right, Dan Tarbuck asks, how do you cope with the memory issues caused by medication? Ugh.
I forget. Oh, come on. That was worth something.
Yeah.
Lisa and I both have this particular symptom.
It's very upsetting.
It does bother Lisa more than it bothers me. So this is actually, you've actually come to the very perfect place to ask this question. Lisa is the note queen. May I?
Yeah.
As you can see, Lisa, right, who is on the show live. I mean, we are live.
I can't remember. I can't remember what I was thinking in my mind and what I was going to say in between the time when he starts talking and when he stops. And to be fair,
your defense, to be fair, that's a long time.
I have taken, that is true. I've taken medication for a very long time now. So, almost 20 years now. So can I really nail that down as a med side effect? I feel like I can. I feel like it has come and gone with different medications over the years, and I didn't always have this. And it is extremely frustrating. And the thing that was the most frustrating about it is because it was the change, because you could always rely on your memory to be a certain way, and now you can't. And so that would actually cause me so many more problems because I not resisted, but I didn't take notes because what for? I'd never needed to take notes before. I'd never needed to write this stuff down before. I just always remembered it. So it took me a really long time to get in the habit of writing notes. And so now I have 1,000 of these pieces of paper all over the place. In terms of how do you cope with it, the way I cope with it is copious amounts of note taking. And that has been extremely helpful to me. There's a lot of apps and things that you can do on your phone. I personally just prefer paper and pencil. I always have a pen in my purse. I always have a piece of paper in my pocket. And that is how I cope with it. That has been by far the most helpful to me.
I let Lisa go first to make my answer maximum funny. I hired Lisa to remind me to do things. That's exactly what I did. I'm starting to regret that decision.
Two things. One, I don't think it's as bad of a side effect for you as it is for me, and you are not as disturbed by it.
I am not.
It bothers me a lot.
I do the same thing as Lisa. I do it differently. Lisa, she's analog. I love the apps on my phone. If it's not on my calendar, I don't do it. I want to address another thing. When I was younger, I was in sales. And if I met you one time, if I just walked up, hi, what's your name?
Lisa.
That's it.
Yeah.
I knew Lisa forever. As I got older, whether it's because of the medicine, whether it's because of the aging process, or realistically some combination of both, Lisa would introduce herself and I'd forget who she was 5 minutes later. And in fact,
I have such a problem with that. I love places where people wear name tags.
And in some cases, I would forget. I would forget her face even. Yeah. Hopefully in a perfect world, I still recognize that at least I met her and I can, oh, hey, how are you doing? Oh, it's good to see you, buddy. I used to be the king of that. But then I realized that this is a little bit disingenuous. Why don't I just be honest?
Yeah.
And now when I meet people, I would say, oh, have we met before? And that person would say, yes, we met X time. And I say, oh, thank you so much for reminding me. I meet a lot of people. I'm really, thank you. Or I'd say, I know we've met before, but I apologize. I forgot your name. And that person will give me their name. I have gotten no bad from this. If you want to run the tricks, there's a million tricks I can give you. I do work with Lisa. Lisa does handle a lot of my appearances and things like that. And if I don't recognize somebody, Lisa will say, hi, my name is Lisa. And she'll just interject herself right in the conversation.
That's the best one. If you're talking to someone and you're not sure of their name, see if you can get someone else to come up and introduce themselves.
Yeah, and then that person will give you the name. But ultimately, I have found that just seriously, how there's radical acceptance as a DBT skill. I believe in radically accepting that my memory is not what it used to be, and radical honesty, and just telling people that I'm sorry, I cannot place you right now. And some people think, well, doesn't this make you bad? No, I don't think it makes you bad at all. I've got a million stories that I can tell. I gotta kill that habit. I always say I got a million stories I can tell, and then I tell one. You do, in fact, have
a million stories you could
tell. I do, but it's a lame verbal tick.
Oh, I say absolutely a lot.
My favorite people in the whole world are people that say, I don't know. Because when you say, I don't know, you tell me that I can trust you, that you have considered my question, and that you value giving the correct answer. When somebody knows everything, I don't think they're extra smart. I think they're lying. Yeah. I really, really do. And
it shows a lack of respect. Because they're not willing to just be honest.
And especially in deeper concepts or newer things, when we talk about COVID, the doctors that I have the most respect for are the doctors that say, we don't know and we won't know for years. And I think, okay, that is an honest answer because that's reality. It's not magic. We're not going to know instantly. Nothing works that way. We're still learning things from the 1918 epidemic, and it's 100 years old. That's just how science works. So when somebody says, I don't know the answer yet, I think, okay, you really value giving me an honest answer. I believe that when I tell somebody, I'm sorry, I meet a lot of people and I don't remember your name, that has a lot of value. Or when I tell people, I'm sorry, I forgot to do that, that has a lot of value. I hope that all of those suggestions help. The hardest one for me was forgetting people's names. The hardest ones for Lisa is is missing deadlines. We both have very unique ways of handling each one, but they largely involve being honest and taking a lot of notes. Somebody wrote, it was Shailene Markey. I hope I got your name right. She said, note-taking mini recorder or recording app. And she also said that we're very relatable. Thank you very, very much.
Oh, see, I'm trying to read the screen from far away, and I thought it said it's very reliable. And I thought, I wonder which app she's using that's the most reliable.
You're so old.
I know. The only other thing I would say about this,
please.
Is that thank you, camera, is that
Camera didn't say that. That's
no, she put it on the screen though for us.
Oh, okay.
Camera put it on the screen.
I'll go away.
It isn't magic.
Could be, I don't know.
Yeah. Is, of course, if this is a medication side effect, or you want to talk to your doctor about any side effects that are bothering you, because you never know, you might be able to get it to lessen. Or even, who knows? You might be able to change your meds, decrease your meds, increase your meds. Who knows? So you might not have to live with this.
Very true. Diet and exercise works wonders. I did get some of my memory back when I started drinking more water, eating better foods, and exercising more. Thank you again. She's laughing at us. That's awesome. We're going to give you a huge wave. All right. Yes, we say, see, exactly. I think that I don't know is one of the most powerful phrases in the English language. I love it when people tell me things that I don't know, because it instantly triggers this I get to learn something. There is nothing worse in the world than being told, usually in long dramatic fashion, something that you already know. I recognize this.
I don't know what that's like.
Yeah. This is why we're divorced.
All
right. Are you ready for, we're running out of time.
Okay,
so let's do,
all right.
We're going to do the speed round.
I'm
ready?
Mm-hmm.
Go.
All right. Catherine says, are there therapists that also do medication management?
No.
What?
I mean, unless there's people who do medication management that also do therapy, but a therapist can't do medication management.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. I didn't read the question that way. Yes.
So if you look at it that way, if they are a therapist, I believe in all 50 states that there's no psychologist, therapist, LISW, licensed social worker that can prescribe. So you'd need a medical doctor that can prescribe that is also doing therapy. I suppose that might be a semantics argument, but I feel strongly that if somebody is a therapist, they are not able to prescribe.
Like they're literally not able to prescribe. They legally are not able to prescribe.
Yeah, they would have to be a doctor that is also practicing therapy. All right, next question. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right, Andy Reed asks, why do you think disabled people aren't getting hired?
Man,
I have bipolar 2 and haven't been given a fair chance. Yeah.
This is early on after I was diagnosed, I was fired from my job, and there was no reason for this.
It was a direct result of the bipolar.
And it was traumatizing. It was scary. My health insurance was wrapped up in that, and I was sick. It was also frankly, just
unfair.
It was just a kick in the knees.
You're already down.
Yeah. And it was absolutely devastating and difficult to come back from. But I was able to come back from it and find a place to hire me that understood. And it did take some time.
To find your niche.
Yeah. To answer the first question, I don't know why. It is illegal. It is unfair. It's disingenuous. And frankly, it's just kind of a stupid thing to do. And it's kind of a bummer. It's kind of a bummer that they would behave this way, because they're missing out on excellent employees. And a lot of businesses and a lot of business owners have realized this. And there are places that are hiring. If you are anything like me, after I got fired, I wanted the same or better job than I lost. And unfortunately, that was unreasonable. I did have to settle for less money. I had to settle for a less prestigious job. I did have to build back up. That is wholly unfair. It is very, very unfair. But I found out that I was just very miserable comparing my current situation to my previous situation. And as much as I didn't want to let it go, and as much as I wanted people to constantly tell me that I deserved to be angry and that it was okay that that I should not move on and that I should stay in this spot, it wasn't serving me. Please keep looking. Please keep looking for a job. If you live in a big city, pull up, it's not occupational therapy. It's vocational
therapy. Yeah. Vocational rehab is
Yeah,
one thing we have.
vocational rehab. Call up the unemployment office and ask for Voc Rehab. It could be the Department of Jobs and Family Services. It's called something different in every state. In our state, it's called the Ohio Department of Jobs and Family Services. Tell them that you want to get back to work and you are disabled and you need Voc Rehab. You need vocational rehab. They will refer you someplace, and that referral can help you get a job. And they will work with you to overcome some of the things that you need,
holding you back.
Yeah, that I needed help overcoming, and that many people need help overcoming. I cannot stress the importance of vocational rehab enough, especially if you're in a situation where going it alone is almost impossible. It was very, very helpful for me. It's been helpful for, frankly, hundreds of people that I have known. Lisa, do you have anything to add?
No, we have known many people who've had vocational rehab and been very pleased with the results.
Yes, completely agree. Completely agree. All right. Ready? One more. We got to go like real fast.
Okay,
real fast here. Okay.
Might a person with extreme social anxiety seem to an untrained layman to present the same behaviors as a person with NPD? Do you think they meant to say BPD?
I don't know. What is NPD?
I don't know.
I want to make sure I get NPD.
Yeah, do I have to look it up?
Narcissistic personality disorder.
Okay.
Once again, thank you, camera.
She
yes.
does everything.
To answer your question, yes. Here's the thing. Untrained people get it wrong all the time. That's really all you need to know. Everybody in America, for whatever reason, thinks that they're psychologists all of a sudden and that they're doctors and that they're trying, especially with the pandemic.
Yeah.
Do you know how many people on my Facebook page within a nanosecond suddenly became
experts in infectious disease?
It was amazing. They were pandemic experts. Just some of these people just dropped out of high school. They've never gone to college. They have no background in healthcare, and suddenly they are qualified to tell some of the foremost disease experts in this country that they are wrong. And any one of you who is that person who is listening to me now just thinks that I'm a jerk. You don't even think for a second, that's a really good point. Should I take somebody who spent their entire life studying something and declare that I know better than them? No, you're all positive I'm wrong. And we know people like this. We have people like this in our own families. We have friends like this. We have people we love who strongly believe that they are an expert in something that they know nothing about. So your question of might a person with extreme social anxiety seem to present the same behaviors as a person with narcissistic personality disorder? Absolutely. To the untrained eye, people will label you anything that they want. And it's sad and it's frustrating. And I really wish that people would stop doing it. I really wish that people would stop looking at people and giving them psychiatric diagnoses. Stop it. Stop it. Lisa, anything to add?
How can you possibly follow that? I think we're going to have to let that answer stand, Kate.
That is where we are going to have to end. Unfortunately, we are out of time. Thank you so much for being here. Listen, my name is Gabe Howard, and this is my ex-wife and co-host and bestie and frenemy, Lisa Kiner. We are the hosts. I mean, really, I'm the host and you're the co-host.
See, yeah, right? Why does he keep doing that?
I am the host of the Not Crazy podcast, and Lisa, she kind of helps sometime because nobody wants to hear my voice for an hour. Sincerely.
I have ultimate
She's also the producer. Sincerely, please check out the Not Crazy podcast. You can go over to psychcentral.com/notcrazy or just search for search for Not Crazy on your favorite podcast player. We appreciate all of you. We will see you later.